Boats were one of the big new additions to version 10, and I've had the chance to build all of them, use and evaluate their utility, and generally give the boats a shakedown for over 30 days to give you a report on what to expect with this new type of vehicle and the surrounding gameplay. So I'm going to unpack several game features as I go related to boats so we see how everything relates to each other, and some contingencies around using boats. But I'm going to get right into the boat evaluation, starting with the small canoe. This is the starter boat in the game and is available to everyone to make right on their workbench at the start. All you need is a few raw logs, a handful of hewn logs anyone can make on their workbench, and bam! You can travel on the water anywhere in the world. Now, you will burn some calories while paddling the boat, so it's not absolutely free, but it's a reasonable consumption, and actually a bit less than if you were running. Now, this boat does have 3 cargo slots, and each slot holds the same as a slot on a regular-sized stockpile, which does make it capable of some transport, and is considerably better than swimming across an ocean carrying a handful of logs, like we did before version 10. The small canoe is reasonably quick, though it's not the fastest boat. But let's talk about some of its maneuverability. Now, in real life, I've paddled hundreds of miles in canoes, so for a game, they did a reasonably good job of emulating the maneuverability of a canoe with the simple, limited controls of WASD. It's easy to understand, though, why many folks find it a bit difficult, and I will admit it takes a little practice to get used to, but I don't think it's all that terrible. It just takes that practice. There is a funny little bug or delay or something with every boat where, for example, you'll press to turn right and the boat at first turns left a little before starting to turn right. This, more than anything, can make trying to dock at a specific spot aggravating. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And even though it's more common with the canoes, it's not an issue only with that specific boat. The next boat in the progression is the large canoe, and I found this boat a very nice and easily affordable upgrade over the small canoe. It's kind of like upgrading from the small wood cart to the large cart. It's just something you should and can easily do, but it feels like a much bigger upgrade than the cart analogy. The large canoe has 12 slots, 4 times what the small canoe has, and has the same carrying capacity as the large wooden cart, making it a great match for traveling across water, placing down a cart from your backpack, and continuing on inland to trade your goods. So this starts to get pretty useful for transport, and I made a lot of trips across open water and along the shoreline to go chop wood, fill the canoe, and bring it back home. It's slightly longer than the small canoe, but it's the same speed and has the same canoe-like maneuverability. In a side-by-side speed test, the large canoe was the same speed as the big trawler, which I'll talk more about that boat in a minute. It does require some items from the logging specialty, though, to make, but that is something more for when I talk about the shipwright skill in a future video. But I mention it here because the large canoe should be available from a shipwright right at the beginning of the playthrough. After the large canoe is the small wooden boat, or paddle boat. This might be one of the best all-around boats in the game, and has several unique features. First, it's fast. Very fast. In fact, it's very nearly the fastest boat in the game. It approached being nearly twice as fast as the canoe, and is the most maneuverable one in the game. This paddle boat handles very precisely, accelerates quick, and feels like a little man-powered speedboat in the water. And I probably should note that the canoe and this paddle boat are all man-powered. All you need is calories. It holds a lot of cargo too, 18 slots. This boat also has a nice feature none of the other boats have. It's self-docking. The angles on the front and back of the boat allow you to run it up on the shore or dock a little, which helps keep it in place and prevents it from being nudged and pushed out into the water as easily. In terms of crafting, this boat pulls in the mechanics skill, so it won't be available until the miners and smelters get up and running with their iron bars. Also, as a bit of breaking news, the developers of Eco previewed a new specialty of blacksmithing with a couple new tables that fits into the smelting skills. So we'll have to see how that plays into the skill progression. I think on longer running servers, newcomers to the server will still be buying this boat as a first watercraft, even though the other bigger boats might be available. And that's because it is such a good boat, and is the last boat that can be made without starting to get into some of the more serious and expensive materials. The canoes will die off in sales, but these paddle boats will likely be in stock indefinitely. And if you're a shipwright, you'll probably keep selling these well into a playthrough, similar to the wooden carts. The only negative I could find in this boat was that it lost a lot of its speed when turning, which was only slightly annoying. The next boat is the wooden transport ship. This one is probably the best of all the available boats in the game. Now the paddle boat is good, and there's one other pretty hot boat I haven't talked about yet, but this wooden transport ship is just solid all the way around, and is one you'll use as soon as you get it and will never outgrow it. It holds a whopping 140,000 kilograms across 48 slots. This is compared to the modern truck that holds 80,000 kilograms in 36 slots. This tremendous carrying capacity makes it the king of transport, and as fuel, it uses any burnable item. This boat is so capable, it can even traverse many of the rivers, and I took it upstream and through a tight canal a player dug to connect an inland lake with the ocean. I think the builder of this canal and the person using the river has been digging coal from the middle of the continent, then loading the coal onto the transport boat at the lake, following the canal and river back to the open ocean and across the water to their smelting operation. Very innovative, and it's a perfect example of how broadly used these boats can be, even this transport boat. The transport boat also has dedicated spots for people to sit, and comes with flame-lit lanterns that just adds to the effect of the boat when traveling at night, or to use as disco lighting during a mooring post dance show. Overall, I have no doubt that this will be the most sold boat by shipwrights. I sold a lot of the paddle boats, but this one is definitely the top ship, and is as much of a must-have on a server as the modern truck. It maneuvers well, and in a side-by-side speed run, this transport boat slowly edged out the fishing trawler, making it the second fastest boat in the game, only behind the paddle boat. If I said anything at all negative about this boat, it would be a very small one. That's hardly even a negative, and it's the fact that you can only disembark the boat from the rear. For all practical purposes, the top canopy keeps you from jumping off the sides or out of the front, so the boat is designed for a rear dismount. In a way though, this is good, as it forces players to back into the dock and take up less space in a person's harbor. The last small thing to know about this boat and the trawler is that it requires 2 blocks of draft under the boat to completely back it up to a dock or shore, so it could be a problem on shallow shores. The next boat in this review is the trawler. This is a dedicated fishing boat that requires a separate flax net or nylon net to catch fish. At this point in the game, the only difference in the two nets seems to be that the nylon net is more durable and requires less repairs than the flax net, but they both catch the same kind of fish. Now, the trawler is great looking and an impressive boat, and uses the easily acquired burnable fuel, but its utility is somewhat limited. It has 2 separate cargo areas, but they are modest in size at 8 slots, and one of them can only carry fish. I like that it can carry some non-fish cargo, but for the most part, this boat is relegated to fishing, joyriding, and some very light hauling. Its size might also limit it from landing well at small docks. I love the boat, and it looks great at the harbor, but the game also doesn't currently have a great demand for copious amounts of fish. So, in my opinion, the game needs some significant recipe changes to use a lot more fish, and not just in cooking recipes. Perhaps fish oil for processing into liquid fuel, dried fish for burnable fuel, perhaps a fertilizer, maybe even an additive to some building materials, or just something to create a demand to warrant using this new trawler. And along with that, the fish traps that passively catch fish without any effort, those compete massively with the trawler. And realistically, the basic fishing pole is a competitor with the trawler, and even catches the big blue sharks the trawler doesn't catch, as of assembling this video anyway. In my opinion, it's hard to justify getting the trawler, unless you just want to look cool, which it excels at. Lastly are the two barges. There's a smaller wooden barge that's unlocked earlier in the shipwright skill, and the industrial barge that comes as the last craftable boat. The wooden barge is hand-powered, so it requires no fuel and can carry one truck. This is in comparison to the industrial barge that uses liquid fuel like gasoline or biodiesel and can carry 4 trucks. If an individual or small team of folks wanted to move a massive amount of material all at once, this is the way.
This is the way.
The wooden barge is noticeably slow, but it does get the job done. And after the version 10.1.2 patch, they fixed the main problem where trucks would sink into the top of the barge decks and become permanently stuck. They still sink in when you take control to move the barge, but pop right back up when it stops. So I suspect the sinking might be to help lock the trucks in place while being transported. This is a little bit important, as when you lower or raise the ramps, the barge can bounce around a little bit. I've had the best luck raising and lowering the ramps using Q while still at the helm, and let the barge do its bouncy thing, then leave the helm control to drive off the truck. The industrial barge is surprisingly fast, and once it gets up to speed, you'll motor along at about the same pace as the trawler. It's also pretty maneuverable for a ship its size, and once you get a handle on where its pivot point is, you'll be able to spin the thing around with no problem. I do strongly advise, though, to only try to use a dock or shore where the unloading shore or dock voxel is at water height. Raised docks or piers are death for the barge ramps, and you'll want to make sure the area where the ramp lowers is completely clear of objects. I can't say I have 100% confidence in the barges due to their little bit of ramp and loading quirkiness, but I have used them both a fair bit, so with a little care, you should be alright. You should also be alright joining the live version of DadSpeed, running the latest version 10 updates. By the time you see this video, DadSpeed should be up and running and only a few minutes old. Now, there's no need to rush onto the server, because even in this new world of settlements and boats, the DadSpeed community is still upholding the same slow progression and strong economic server rules that support long-term and enjoyable gameplay. Players can be just as successful joining the server 2 or 3 weeks or months into the server as they will be in the first 2 or 3 days. DadSpeed is not a server where it's a race to be the top producer. Everyone at all frequencies of play have opportunities to succeed, feel a part of everything, and engage in the economy. The admins have also told me they are dedicated to ensuring a great experience for the players and seeing how the new version 10 elements play out in the long term. You can find the link to the DadSpeed Discord channel in the video's description to read the server rules, get direct connect information, and join the community. So get in there, start playing, watch my videos if you have any questions, and I'll be talking to you later.